My name is Cynthia Goerig. This is your elite community, and we have opened it up to all of our community. And I'm presenting. I'm also the founder of Legacy Life Consulting, and welcome. So tonight we are going to talk about how to lead with compassion, rise above fear. On this webinar, we're going to look at how we can be respectful without taking on the fear of others. So how can we be respectful regardless of our own personal opinion and help people out of their fear without taking it on? We're going to look at what is being triggered from the past, if something is coming up for you right now. And then we're going to look at how can we create love and safety for those who are feeling fear. So imagine great leaders. Great leaders, what do they do? Who's a leader that you are inspired by? What is their vibration? What do they lead with? Love, inspiration. And I want you just all to imagine at the end of this crazy, crazy time, how did you show up? How did you show up for your family? How did you show up for yourself? How did you show up for your community? Because now is your time to rise. Now is your time to show the world who you are. And so let's talk about who's here. And who is here and listening to this? You are a leader that wants to make a difference. And in order for people to have a big impact in the world and to make a difference, you have to have understanding and compassion for yourself. Right? And we're going to start tonight talking about how to coach and support people right now through their fears. I'm also going to be doing a virtual 2-day workshop to deepen this and teach the method of coaching that we use at Legacy. There's no tuition, but you will need to apply because I'm going to keep it to a small group. All right, so let's look at collective fear, cultural fear. Now, we are an amazing country, right? And we have two very, very strong values, independence and freedom. And these are incredible values that allow us to create what we want in our life. And we are also not known for conformity, right? And so what do you need to do, or what is in our culture as Americans, how do we control people if they have such strong independence and such a strong sense of freedom? Well, we use fear, right? The media use fears. It's a way for us to control each other and to control us. And what I'm going to challenge you tonight is to look at the energy behind all the decisions that you're making, how you're taking care of yourself, what you're doing during this time of crisis and chaos. And I'm going to ask you to use the energy of prudency. And being prudent is simply acting with or showing care and thought for the future. You can take care of yourself, you can lead, you can make decisions in the best interest for your own health and for the health of your family without the energy of fear. And so what is the energy then that we want to bring in, or what do we want to do in order to lead? Well, if we're going to lead and inspire people, we want to do that with compassion and empathy. And the first thing that we need to look at is having compassion and understanding for ourselves, what's coming up for us. And, you know, in times of great crisis, it can bring out the worst in people and it can bring out the best. Let this time bring out the very best in you. And how you can lead with compassion is to support other people with what they're feeling and being respectful, regardless of what your personal opinion is. Okay? If you have a personal opinion and you are forcing that opinion on someone else, you are making them feel unsafe. If you are righteous in your opinion, you are making someone wrong. And that is not going to help somebody to come to their own understanding. At Legacy, one of our values is to teach people to know themselves. And this is really the greatest gift I think that we can offer anyone, is for them to know themselves. Because when you know yourself, you have more confidence, more trust, more understanding, and you can make decisions quickly. So I want to talk about my personal story with fear. And this is me dancing. I graduated from high school in 1989 and I moved to Israel. I had an opportunity to dance with a dance company there. And yes, I did follow a boy. I did follow a boy there. He was a lovely, lovely boy at the time. And I was dancing in Israel. And there's my father and I. My parents came to visit, and there's my father and I outside of the embassy. And shortly after my time, a year or so in Israel, the Gulf War came. And it was tremendously scary for me. And this is a picture of two people in their gas masks in a sealed room. And that's what we did every day. When the alarms went off, we went into our sealed room, got into our gas masks. And I truly have never felt so much fear. And so my experience during this time of great personal fear was literally for my physical safety. We would hear the Scud missiles go off. We would hear a lot of destruction, and it was frightening. And yet, what I learned during this time is how community can come together to support each other. I never felt so well taken care of. And the other thing that came out of this for me is that when we weren't in our sealed rooms, when we were either in dance class or eating dinner or walking on the beach, we were fully present and alive. And the big gift that came out of this time for me is how present I am in my life now and how much I appreciate every moment. My second story with fear, I moved from Israel, a young dancer, to New York City. Danced at Radio City Music Hall, and yes, that's me with my friend Michelle, and we are in elf costumes. Yes, that is an elf costume. We don't really understand what type of elves we were at the North Pole, but that is our elf costume, and apparently we went for a walk in the snow. And then and then you see me with another friend of mine holding sheep. Those are real sheep. It was a live nativity scene. I rode on a donkey. We had camels, and yes, animals really smell, and we would have to walk very carefully across the stage at certain times. So a few years into my dance career in New York City, the towers went down, and it was 9/11. Again, tremendous cultural, scary fear for me. And I remember watching the towers just burning from George Washington Bridge. And yet, New York City was forever changed after that. People looked each other in the eye. People made more contact. I remember walking around my neighborhood during that time and after, and people that would never have asked me how you are or what's going on for you did. And it changed the community. And then it also showed me once again how people can come together, how people can get over something and rise above it and rebuild. So now we're going to look at your personal fear. Whenever there's a crisis or anything that is challenging that is happening, and your reaction to it is going to bring out your personal fear. And your personal fear is a response to the circumstances, and it's also a response to what you have experienced in the past, okay? So what you have experienced in the past could be triggering what you have now. And there's all types of fears. I've been on lots of group calls, group coaching calls with people, one-on-one with clients, asking them, what are your fears? And fears range from anything to, I don't feel like I'm in control. I'm afraid for my own health. I'm afraid my mother's going to get sick or my parents. Financial, I'm afraid for my financial well-being. I'm also afraid that none of my plans are going to work out, right? And so what are you feeling right now with your fear? What is coming up for you? Okay, we're going to do a self-assessment. This is just for you. It's not a big deal. How it's going to work is you're going to close your eyes and you're going to have a pen and paper ready. And you're going to close your eyes and I'm going to ask you a question. And the very first number that comes to you within 1 second, you're going to write it down without questioning it. Okay, and then don't worry about what it is I'm asking. I'm going to tell you what I'm asking afterwards after you write down your numbers. So I want you just to close your eyes, settle into your body, and take a deep breath and relax, sliding out of your head into your heart, giving permission to your heart, to your inner knowing to answer. Good. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not at all, 10 being very, very high, how unsafe do you feel right now? On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being very low, 10 being very, very high, you feel isolated. First number that comes. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being very low, 10 being absolutely high, you feel lonely. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being very low, 10 being very high, you feel afraid every day. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being very low, 10 being very high, you feel powerless. The last question, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being very low, 10 being very high, you feel helpless, out of control. Good. The first question was unsafe. Second, isolated. Third, lonely. Fourth, afraid. Fifth, powerless. And the last one, helpless, out of control. So if you are ranging around the high numbers, perfect opportunity to get on a coaching call with your coach if you're part of our community. If you're not and someone has forwarded this to you, or you're listening in and you are not a part of our coaching community with coaching calls, I'm offering half-hour free coaching calls to help people get out of their fear. So that was just for you. That's just to let you know where you're at. Now, I said our fears can be triggered from the past, right? So for me personally, when this all came up, the first fear I had was literally for the physical safety of me and my community. And it's interesting because about 2 months ago, I realized I had the awareness that I had some repressed fears from the past, and I started to clean them out. And I feel very grateful that I did, because it's helping me respond in a more neutral way right now. So, what your fears from the past that are creating right now? So, we look at the iceberg, and this is what we know from Inner Legacy. The top of the iceberg above water is your conscious mind. Everything below is your unconscious. And so if you do not understand your behavior or do not know what or why it's coming from, it is because it is in your unconscious. The first 7 years of your life, you are in a hypnagogic state. And this means that you are just energy beings. Your brain hasn't fully developed into its adult brain. And so you absorb the experiences from your past into your physical body and into your energy, and then it creates patterns. Another way to say this is you are carrying emotional baggage. Could be a backpack, heavy backpack that you're carrying around from something that happened in the past, your past history, that you have not let go of. And there can be all types of fears. We can look at what your biggest fear is, or it could just be your reaction. So what happens is you have an experience in the past, and then what that does is it creates a belief in you. And so what do you believe right now? If you're feeling fear, what is the belief that is coming out of it? What do you believe? Do you believe that everything's going to be okay, that this is a blessing in disguise? Do you believe that this will unify the world? Do you believe that you're not going to be okay, that you're going to suffer greatly? What do you believe right now? Our past experience creates our beliefs, and then we live them out. And what's beautiful about this is that you can change your beliefs. You can let things go. You can let emotional baggage go, and you can recreate your beliefs, because whatever you are repressing or suppressing inside yourself, it creates your beliefs and then it projects out and it comes true. There's that saying, if you want to see how you're doing, look around you. And so how are other people showing up? Because they are just mirroring back what is going on inside you. So now, just for yourself, we're going to go through this pretty quickly, but you can take some time with it, pause, or listen to this again, and just write down, what are your fears? What is coming up for you right now? And I want you to take a moment, and if no fears are coming up, is that because you're just so busy and in action or distraction that you're not allowing your fears to come up? Another thing you can do is look at what are the fears of the people in your life? And if you're noticing those fears, ask yourself, do I have this fear? And then what is your experience with fear? What is your past experience with fear? What events have you experienced in the past where fear was present? Did you shut down? Did you was it paralyzing for you? Did you go into great action? You had anxiety? And then ask yourself, what do you believe right now? What do you believe about the world, about your reaction, your vitality? What do you believe right now? And then ask yourself, is this an echo from the past? If the circumstances were different, but the feeling is the same. So for me, the Gulf War, a lot of fear for me, then 9/11. And so my first reaction was the cultural safety that I experienced. Good. So now we're going to look at the collective consciousness or majority consciousness. You could also say this is peer pressure. And a lot of times it's impossible for us to know our own truth and live in our own integrity if we are caught up in majority consciousness. Many years ago, I was visiting a friend in New York City, and I was watching the Miss America pageant and on TV, which was fabulous, by the way. I miss those days. And on every break, every commercial break, there was some like news update, dun, 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 and it's very important. And there was some outbreak of some flu, maybe it was SARS or the swine flu, I don't remember. But it literally, every time it came on, it put this incredible fear in me that I was not okay and that I was already infected or that I was going to die. And I felt like I needed to run out and get a vaccine and all that. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with getting a vaccine or taking care of yourself, but what was important to me is to identify, where is that coming from? Because I want to make a decision that is based on what I feel and what is good for me in my integrity, and not because of peer pressure or what everybody else is telling me. Now, the other thing that can happen is you can take on other people's fears as your own. And speaking from a recovering martyr, I often will take on the responsibility of other people's feelings and try to make it okay for them. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to help someone or be there or being understanding and empathetic, but this is different. This is taking on somebody else's fear or somebody else's feelings. And the underlying message when you do this is that they're not okay on their own. And everyone has the capacity within themselves to know their own answers, to heal themselves, and to make their own decisions. And if we give ourselves away or we take on the responsibility for them, then we are demoralizing them. And part of what we really want to do is empower people. We want to help them find their own truth and then make a decision from that, because then they can operate in the world confidently with trust in themselves. And so for you, the more that you can look at the energy behind everything that you're doing right now, every decision, is it coming from fear? Is it coming from a place of prudency? Is it coming from a place of love? Or am I somehow wrapped into, getting sucked into majority consciousness or the collective consciousness? Now, I'm going to send you a guided exploration, and the guided exploration, it's a 5-minute meditation, and it's going to be for you to scan your body, for you to identify if you have any personal fear within your body, and then it walks you through a process of letting it go, or for you to scan your body and see if you've taken on somebody else's energy. You've taken on the responsibility for someone else. And again, by doing that, you can't change anyone else. You can't heal anyone else. And what then I'll walk you through letting go of their energy. And so what then is there? Well, this is your time. This is your time to show up. This is your time to lead. This is your time to rise above and let the world see who you really are. As I mentioned, in great times of challenge or crisis, it can bring out the worst in people and it can bring out the best. Let this time be a conscious effort for it to bring out the best in you. And I'm going to read, I was looking at races, like long runner's race, bicycle race, and somebody also mentioned this to me, and I thought this was very interesting. Surge at the top and bottom of each hill. A common and appropriate strategy is to surge over the top of the hill while your rivals relax and slow. It's also a great idea to surge at the bottom of every hill. Many runners relax at the bottom of hills. It's only natural as you return to your flat running pace and rhythm. Savvy racers, however, take advantage of this by carrying the downhill momentum onto the flat and surging at the bottom of the hill. It takes your competitors by surprise and gives you an advantage and the lead, right? So for many people, we may say that we are at the bottom of a hill right now. And now is your time to surge. And how you can do that is the cleaner you are with yourself and your emotions, the cleaner you can be for other people and help other people. And so just how can you show up? Reach out. And I want you to imagine 5 years from now, when this is all over and there's some new normal, how will people remember you when they look back on this time? Were you a source of inspiration and love and confidence? During 9/11, I still hold a tremendous deal of respect and loyalty to the mayor at the time. And the reason why is because he immediately showed up on television, on the air, and said, hey, New Yorkers, we are going to be okay. We will rebuild. We will mourn and we will heal. And I promise you that I'm going to do everything I can to get us through this. And it was of tremendous comfort. And I still hold that message of leadership deep into my heart. So, how do you do that? How do you first lead with compassion, understanding, and empathy? Well, the first thing you do is you're compassionate with yourself and your own fears. And you need to get it out of your body. You need to ask yourself, what am I afraid of? What am I afraid to feel? What are you feeling? Right? Our past experience creates our beliefs, and then that creates our reality. And whatever is inside you that you're suppressing, that you don't want to feel, will project itself out and create circumstances and the environment around you. So the very first thing that you can do is get safe for yourself. Create a safe place, non-judgment, care and love. Allow yourself to feel, and then allow yourself to get it out of you. And then once you do that, you can now do that for others. And you can create safety and love for the people in your life. And this is how we practice coaching. The method of legacy is to create an unconditional, accepting, loving space of no judgment, no criticism, and really hold it that everyone has the capacity to know what they want and have the answers within them. So let's talk very specifically about creating safety. Joe Roseborough wrote a wonderful article called Fear of Feeling. And these are some of the steps from it. And the first one is acknowledge what you are feeling. Are you fearful? Are you angry? Are you grieving? And then you're going to find a quiet, safe place. And then if you have the time, wonderful is to journal. Get it out. I was working with a client experiencing quite a bit of anxiety. So much anxiety that she could not drive anymore. She wouldn't allow herself to drive. So the very first thing I had her do for a week is just write down everything that she was afraid of, everything that was in her, every emotion. I said, you're not going to read it. You just want to get it out of your body. And what it started to do is it started to release, and it started to break up all of that energy that she was trying not to feel. And what's interesting is if you feel a feeling, emotion, and you're not repressing it or suppressing, you're letting it rip, the longest that it can stay active is 90 seconds. But we think that, oh my God, if I just even go there, I'm going to be a crying, miserable mess forever. And that's just not true. What happens is we start to feel it, we push it down, and it creates this pressure cooker. And so find a quiet place, get it out of you. Maybe close your eyes, scan your body, look for places of discomfort, tension, tightness, and then ask your body, can I let this go, or is there a message for me, right? Or your body loves you so much, it will let you know when something's wrong. And we all know this, right? We get a sense in our stomach. Ask anyone, where do you carry your tension when you get stressed? They'll be able to tell you just immediately. And then take several deep breaths. Give yourself permission to release it. And as I mentioned, I'm going to send a meditation, quick 5-minute meditation to walk you through this process. So then what happens? So if we can get out of reaction, if we cannot be led by our emotions, by our reactions, then what happens is we know ourselves and we can tap into the very core of our being, our inner compass. You could call it your gut. This comes from your core values, and you express yourself. Now, it's very, very difficult to know yourself when you're in survival or in great emotional turmoil, right? And that is why it's very important to get with a coach, or to sign up for a 30-minute free coaching call to get out of it. Because what happens when you release baggage, when you release things from the past that aren't serving you anymore, when you shed limiting beliefs of who you think you are because of what other people told you, and your true essence comes out, then that's where creativity flows. That's where confidence comes from. That's where you have deep trust in yourself and your decisions. And then what happens is now you have a choice. you have a choice to create a new belief. And how you know what your beliefs are right now is through your head talk. What are you saying inside your head? What are you worrying about? What are you coming up with? So I will tell you what I believe. I believe that I thrive in times of crisis and chaos. And I know this because I have. And I know that there are many gifts that are going to come out of it. For me, the Gulf War, the really big gift that came out of it. Now, there was a tremendous amount of fear, which I worked on and I let go so that it didn't rule me. But the gift that came out of it was really being present and appreciating what I have in the moment and living my life to its fullest. 9/11, the gift that came out of that was to see how people can come together and you can change a community and you can have each other's back. And the other gift that came out of that was the leadership that I witnessed that made me one day want to be like that for other people. So because I have this belief that I'm going to thrive, I also believe that everyone around me will thrive. And as I mentioned before, your past experiences create beliefs and they create your reality. And so because I have a belief that I'm going to thrive, other people are going to thrive around me. And so I decided to check this out. And I started calling friends and checking in on them and colleagues. And my clients are thriving. They're making decisions based on their truth, not from fear, and they're confident in it. I've spoken with several friends that one in particular said this was the very best thing that could have ever happened between her and her children. They were experiencing quite a bit of turmoil. Parents are divorced, they're going back and forth. There was a tremendous amount of tension, and she said it has completely healed our family. I talked with another friend of mine who's a mother, and the same thing. She said, I never thought by spending this much time with my two teenage daughters that this would be a time of great gift. I have another friend, and what I love about her, I'm like, hey, how's because she's working as well from home and homeschooling. I said, how's the homeschooling? She's like, oh, it's going fabulously. I get to add in the curriculum I want, finally. She has 3 boys, and so she has added onto the curriculum how to treat a lady. And so she has her 3 boys. They range from like 4 to 13, opening doors for her and holding packages and carrying them and getting her chair. And I absolutely love it. And so I'm going to ask you right now, what new belief do you want to hold? Because a belief or a vision is going to get you to the other side. So, and I'm not pretending that I'm without fear. I mean, I am all over the place, depending upon what's happening in my world. And when I go into fear or panic or anxiety, I go back to my center and I go back to my belief that I am thriving. I will thrive. I don't know what will happen, but I know that I will be okay. And so what do you want to believe right now? How do you want to ground yourself? Do you want this to be the best thing that's ever happened for you and your family? Do you want it to be a time of great creativity? Do you want it to be a time where you open your heart and find new love? I have a friend, and she's been she's like, I'm finally ready to date, and then the universe gives her a pandemic, right? But she is confident in her belief. She's like, Rapunzel found her love while she was quarantined. So what do you want to believe? Take a minute, settle in, and then remind yourself, write it down every day. Now we're going to talk about coaching others. And as I mentioned, I'm going to do a whole 2-day virtual workshop that you can apply for. But I'm also going to break it up. The next webinar that we're going to do is creating safety in an unsafe world. And we're going to talk about how we do that. And so what are the steps? First, create safety. Safety, emotional safety, is a place of no judgment, criticism, No controlling or fixing. When you try to fix someone, you are giving them the message that they can't do it, and that's demoralizing and it's not empowering. Okay? You're going to listen without interruption. Woo, that's hard sometimes, isn't it? Because you got so many great things to say and helpful hints, but I promise if you hold a safe place, you let somebody talk, they will come to their own answers and they will heal themselves. And again, the best thing you can ever do for another human being is to see them, to hear them, and accept them. We all long desperately and deeply to be loved and accepted for who we are. And if you can do just that for another human being, it will be a gift. Then you're going to open up your heart to understand and empathize. And this is without your personal opinion, without your judgments, because if you are there to facilitate another person and helping them, then it really doesn't matter what you think. You are there for them, and you are them to hold the space for them. Then you're going to ask questions to help them identify what they're feeling. Well, what is your experience with this? How would you like to be supported? If you could change and have it anyway, what would that be? If you were to receive help, what would that look like? If you didn't have any fear, what would the other side? And again, we're going to talk more and more about what questions to ask and how to do that. And this, of course, is exactly the steps that you would take for yourself, right? If you're coaching yourself. And you're going to just hold a loving space. And that loving space is just your heart from one human being to another that you are okay. Now, normally, I would never say give advice because it's a slippery, slippery slope. But I'm going to say give advice this time when asked, because you may have more information or knowledge, especially about what's going on, that could be very helpful. Now, I'm going to ask you, though, because the whole point to help somebody find their own answer so that they are empowered is if you are giving them advice because they want you to be the authority. And like in our collective consciousness, collective majority consciousness, a lot of times we will give our authority way to someone else. And it's different than somebody's asking for advice, or you're telling them, hey, you're going to be okay. We're going to get through this. So you want to check yourself, okay? And if somebody's asking for advice, you want to maybe ask some questions, or you want to see, are they asking because they want approval and validation, but it's coming from a place that it'll serve them? Or is it coming that they want approval and validation because they're giving their authority away? I had another client, this was a couple months ago, and there's a lot of chaos in her life, and she wanted me to do like an emergency fly down for VIP day. And that's very exciting and all that, but I just felt it just wasn't appropriate. And so I asked her, I said, do you want me to come down and do this VIP day because you want to heal and have greater understanding, or is it because you want me to make your life okay for you and make decisions? And she said, it's that other one. And so once we knew it was that one, of course, I'm not going to fly down for that. But we coached on her taking her authority back, finding her own truth so that she can find her own answer. And that's what the last one is. Ask questions to help them find an answer. And lastly, open up to receive help. Okay, I want you to be open, stay open. There is a lot of help available to you. And if you can open up your heart to receive help, and then when help comes, you have to accept it, right? If you have anything coming up around fear, one way that you can receive help is to call for a 30-minute, half-hour coaching call, right? Even if you haven't had any experience with me or my coaches, you'll get a lot of benefit from it. But be open. Ask yourself, how can my heart stay open? If you are lonely, reach out or ask for help. Look for the positive. Look for ways in which the universe can come to you. And then lastly, lead by example. Lead with love. And it's going to be impossible if we go into great fear or if we're in survival to be an inspiration. And so when you do, if you do go into fear, go into survival, just be gentle with yourself. Be loving. Let yourself off the hook. In 1 minute or the next day, it'll be something different. And then I'm going to ask you to look at every decision that you're making, every choice that's coming up, every interaction, and is it coming from a place of fear? Is it coming from a place of love? And then I'm still going to add in, is it coming from a place of prudency? Because prudency is not fear, it is just care for the future. And so if you do find, wow, I'm totally making this decision and the energy behind it is great fear, like fear of something bad, fear of something gonna happen. Well, the wonderful thing is ask yourself, what's the love under the fear? Whatever we are angry about or whatever we are fearful about, there is a value underneath of love. If I am fearful that people around me are going to suffer, it's because I love them and I want them to thrive. And then once you identify what that love is, allow it to spread. Allow yourself to be the example for other people. So your action for this week is, number 1, be compassionate with yourself. I want you to find and create a safe place to express emotions. Get them out. If you find yourself suppressing, distracting, busy, there's nothing wrong with taking action, obviously. I have a whole slide dedicated to it, but I want you to find a safe place to get your emotions out. If you're having trouble, coaching, we're offering it. And then I want you to monitor your thoughts, okay? Because it's one thing, emotion is pretty easy because it comes up and it's different than just that place of confidence and trust and inner knowing. But I want you to start monitoring your thoughts because your thoughts are creating your reality and it's creating what you believe. And so every time you get into a cycle of negativity, I want you to ask, is there any emotion I need to release and express out? Or can I change my belief right now? And how can I do that? And then lastly, stay connected. Connect in. Zoom is very popular right now. Call people. I've gotten in touch with some old friends that I haven't spoken with in years, and it is a lot of fun. So stay connected, and mostly stay connected to your own heart. Check in with yourself. Well, if you watch something on the news and it spins you out, I mean, it happened to me just this morning because it was new information. And I could feel myself starting to spin and I got grounded. Is there anything for me to release? I released a little fear. I went back to my new belief that I am thriving. I will thrive. And then I got grounded and connected into my heart. So that is our presentation for tonight. We have some upcoming events. Inner Legacy Seminar, our next live seminar is in October in Sandpoint. So far, we'll see. If you were signed up or interested in the one that was at the beginning of May, that one is not happening, and we've moved everybody into October. and I'm going to do a virtual 4-hour introduction to Inner Legacy. So if you're listening to this and you've never been to Inner Legacy, this is wonderful time. It'll be in this format. I will go through and I will teach how to let go of stuff from the past, how to unentangle from people so that you can have more personal freedom. And then I will do a demo and I will coach 1 or 2 people at the end of the virtual workshop so that you can see how we work with people. And then I'm also going to do a virtual seminar coaching others, because this, if you are someone where you feel you are not in great fear, you are, not in reaction, but you have a desire to really help others, fantastic. Leadership to me is, how can I impact the world, make a difference while empowering people? And of course, who are the biggest leaders that we have? The greatest leader to me is a mother. I mean, my goodness, they're trying to get somebody to eat something or do something all day long and they don't want to. And so wherever you are in your leadership, whether it's at home, at work, in your community, what can you do to make a positive impact while this is going on? So thank you, as always. If you have any questions or insights or something you want to celebrate, I want you to please email me. I want you to stay connected, and we're going to be opening up either every week or every other week webinar. I want you to pass it forward. Pay it forward. They're going to be free, and help people. We need to take care of each other right now. And I also have a belief that in many, many ways, this is uniting us globally. Think about it. Every country is experiencing something similar to what we are experiencing now. And that hasn't happened. And that's why we have our theme song. So I look forward to the next time I see you, and stay safe.